watch this vidcast, or I'll gouge your eyes out.
Welcome back, horror hounds, to Ghostman and Rivera's Horror Show podcast.
I'm Mike Ghostman Pickle.
And I am James Rivera. As we promised the audience last week, we have a special interview with David Howard Thornton, Art the Clown, probably the best modern-day horror icon. But before we get to that, we have to get through
Horror Show News.
All right. Our first news story is electronic music duo Daft Punk is going to score the new Dario Argento film.
Hellraiser is getting an HBO series with David Gordon Green and Michael Dougherty.
And AMC and Regal Cinemas ban all Universal films. That means Halloween Kills and Candyman from being shown in theaters.
Ugh. What's this I hear about Daft Punk being involved with Dario Argento?
All right, this is Argento's first film in 8 years. It's called Black Glasses.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but we'll see. It's Daft Punk's first score in a decade. They did the Speed Racer soundtrack. So what Dario Argento says about the movie, or about Daft Punk, they are my admirers. They know all my cinema. They heard from French friends that I was shooting a new film and called me to say, we want to work with you. And he talked about the film, The Black Glasses, saying it will be my return to crime films. It's the adventure in the nocturnal Rome of a Chinese girl and a child. In the second part, the escape takes them into the Rockies, bushy countryside of Lazio. It's different from the sweetness of the Tuscan valleys, but for me, beautiful. It's got producers Conchita Eroldi at Urania Pictures and Brahim Chiowa at Getaway Pictures said Argento's words reflected a desire instead of a confirmation. So does that mean he has a strong desire to do this movie, but he hasn't actually confirmed that he's doing it?
I think the Daft Punk thing is what I think is not confirmed for sure. It seems like they're going to collaborate, but it hasn't been officially confirmed with the producers. This is interesting. I mean, Dario Argento is a legend, and I love Dario, but it has been a while since he's made a really good film.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, even though that, like I said, Dario Argento, it's been a while since he's made a really good film, I wouldn't give a shit either. I would collaborate with Dario Argento on anything, no matter what the quality is, because it's fucking Dario Argento. So,
yeah, I mean,
get Daft Punk reaching out to them.
I mean, he may have lost some of what he had before when he made his classics, but he's still Argento. There's still a chance that it's going to be a great film. Daft Punk, you know, like when Tom York did the soundtrack for Suspiria, the new Suspiria. It was Tom York doing the score, but it still sounded like Tom York. I don't think he did a horror score for that, but it still fit. My question is Daft Punk going to do Daft Punk, or are they going to go a little bigger, like you said, like more like Goblin, with something more grand, more on a grand scale and more ballsy?
If I had to venture to guess, I think that it might sound like Daft Punk, but taken in new directions, because if they're working with Dario Argento, they're trying to emulate so much of what they love. As far as the Suspiria remake, since Luca Guadagnino was trying to make an original vision, something so different, I don't think Tom York had the expectations to try to produce a Goblin-type score, just as Luca wasn't trying to rip off the original Suspiria so much as pay homage to it. So I think that Daft Punk is probably going to be a little bit going to hew a little closer to the Goblin style, but of course with their stylistic flares thrown in it.
Yeah, they do have some pretty eclectic songs too, so I think they could pull off a nice creepy score.
Well, we'll see how it turns out. I'll check out anything Dario Argento does.
Yeah, I'm rooting for Argento to do something good. I mean, I admit I haven't even seen his Dracula. I heard so many bad things about it. I just want to keep his classics in my head. I don't want to taint it with this new Dracula.
He could make crap for the rest of his life, and it wouldn't matter, because his legend and his status is permanently cemented in horror and film.
Well, I am rooting for Argento on this one, and it is starring his daughter, Asia Argento, so she's really good, so we'll see how it goes.
So this other piece of news I found really interesting, the Hellraiser getting a series with David Gordon Green and Michael Dougherty. According to Deadline, the idea is to create an elevated continuation and expansion of the well-established Hellraiser mythology. It is by no means a remake, but rather assumes the past mythology to be a given. The centerpiece remains Pinhead, the pin-cushion-headed merciless leader of the Cenobites, the formerly human-turned demons that live in an extra-dimensional realm and are activated through a puzzle box called the Lament Configuration. The Cenobites come from hell to harvest human souls and keep balance between good and evil. This has nothing to do with the Hellraiser film, which is the reboot, which is being directed by David Bruckner. That was announced earlier this month. I'm guessing that the reboot is going to be, like it says, a reboot not connected to the original, and the new one will be an extension of what the established Hellraiser mythology. It's going to be directed by David Gordon Green, at least the pilot and possibly a handful of initial episodes, and Michael Dougherty will be working on the script. Yes, Michael Dougherty of Trick or Treat and Krampus. I don't know how to feel about this. I think this is pretty interesting because I loved what David Gordon Green did with his Halloween update. I think he really understood what made Halloween, and he really tapped into what made the Michael Myers character so special. And he obviously has a great love and appreciation for the genre. Hellraiser is an entirely different thing. It's much more idiosyncratic, for lack of a better word. And we all know, aside from that, people have had difficulties getting different adaptations of Hellraiser off the ground. We've heard so many different versions throughout the years that got scrapped and canceled over and over. So it's hard to know where this is going to head.
For me, I'm sure for a lot of people, I just hope he gets Doug Bradley. I don't care how old he is. Pinhead is Doug Bradley.
I don't think his age is going to matter because with makeup, you can make anybody. You could just get rid of wrinkles. You could get rid of anything. So yeah, I do think that they should keep Doug Bradley.
Every time they've attempted another Pinhead, it just looks ridiculous, dude. Nobody is able to pull off that makeup. And if they don't use Doug Bradley, they better really be carefully and meticulous in the casting.
Strangely enough, I am looking forward to it though. That's if it gets off the ground, because I've learned to temper my expectations whenever they announce something new from Hellraiser. But I find it interesting that HBO wants to do an adaptation. And HBO has so many great series, so much stuff on their roster. They did a fantastic job with their Watchmen series last year. They have classics like The Sopranos and The Wire, 6 Feet Under. So hopefully they are going to be going for that level of quality, because I feel like HBO tries to exert a level of quality control on all of their original content.
Now this story is very important because it hinges on the history of cinema theatrical releases, which we knew was in danger because of the lockdown. This makes it a lot worse. AMC and Regal cinemas ban all Universal films, which includes Halloween Kills and Candyman, from being shown in the theaters. This is because Universal just announced that they would continue releasing their new movies on VOD as well as theaters even after the lockdown is lifted. Now, what they did is most studios worked it out with the big theater chains. They had decided that after all this is over, they would shorten the window, at least temporarily. They would shorten the window between theatrical release and VOD. But Universal was the only studio that they not only refused to commit to the new guidelines, they're the first one to started releasing definite release dates for their films. This decision came about because AMC was already fighting with Universal over this. And then Regal jumped into the mix when Universal recently released the Troll sequel, Trolls on Tour, which was rented 5 million times and made over $100 million. Now, Universal gets to keep 80% of that revenue, but in theaters, they would only get to keep 50%. So already they've made more money than they did on the first Trolls, even though Trolls made $50 million more and was in theaters for like 4 months. So they already made that amount of money. It's just not fair. You're single-handedly trying to destroy the medium of cinema, of theaters on movies on the big screen.
You know, I feel like the Troll situation is really unique because with the lockdown going on, a lot of parents have to stay home with their little kids. So
Yeah.
this is a movie like Trolls is a perfect way to keep the kids entertained while you're in lockdown. However, I understand Regal and AMC flexing on this because they're the two biggest movie theater chains in the country. Universal is not going to survive without being able to release the films in their theaters. I completely get why they're doing this, and I even support them to an extent. I'm not trying to take sides, but I do support them because I do believe in preserving the theatrical experience. It's going to be resolved somehow because if aside from horror, if you think about Candyman and Halloween Kills is expected to make a lot of money, Candyman as well. But if you go even further, they have Fast 9 coming out, the next Fast and the Furious movie. I really doubt that that's going to have the same type of impact with video on demand, with people streaming it. In order, a movie that big budget, if they're really going to want to recoup their budget, they're going to have to release it into theaters. And I can't picture them not doing it. So at some point, they're going to have to resolve the situation. And I do think that if you can do it, it's better to hold off the video on demand. Don't release it simultaneously on the same date. And they're not going to be able to do it without AMC and Regal. So Universal is going to have to make some concessions.
Universal just saw those dollar signs, and they seem to assume that they're just going to keep making this amount of money on VOD. They're hurting theater chains more than they're actually helping themselves. Because this is kind of an unprecedented thing. They're not going to make that kind of money on VOD on another release. You're not going to get this many people to pay $20 for a movie anymore. And this kind of made me even more pissed off. This is the response from Universal. Our goal in releasing Trolls World Tour on VOD was to deliver entertainment to people who are sheltering at home, while movie theaters and other forms of outside entertainment are available. Based on the enthusiastic response to the film, we believe we made the right move. In fact, given the choice of not releasing Trolls World Tour, which would not only have prevented consumers from experiencing the movie, but also negatively impacted our partners and employees, the decision was clear. Now, this is kind of ridiculous to me, because there's no shortage of entertainment for people at home. You're not doing us a favor by forcing this movie out on the VOD. You know what I mean? It's not like there's any kind of shortage that they're filling that gap. They just want to make that money grab. They're taking advantage of the lockdown.
I think they're overestimating it too. I think that Trolls is a very unique situation given what we're going through right now. And like I said, because kids are not going to school anymore, and it's hard to keep kids entertained, especially little kids, and this is a way. A movie like Fast and the Furious, I do not picture that making nearly as much on video on demand. It's something that people are going to want to pay to see on a big screen. Like, I'm personally not a fan of the Fast and the Furious franchise, but the people who do like it, like the spectacle, like the big explosions, and you're not going to get that experience get that same experience on your television. Not only that, aside from Trolls, I don't think that most people are going to be wanting to pay $20 to rent a movie on their own. For me, I find that a little bit, I personally wouldn't do it. I understand why they were charging $20 for a movie like The Invisible Man or something like that, but that's because The Invisible Man was already released in theaters and they had to shut it down in the middle of its theatrical exhibition. So in that situation, it makes sense. It doesn't make sense in a larger context, because I could tell you one thing. I for sure as hell am not paying $20 to see every new movie in the home. If I'm going to pay that much money, I'm going to a movie theater. And like I said, this lockdown isn't going to last forever. I know life is going to be a little bit different when we go back and when we start rotating back into the world. But at some point, we're going to have to go back and start doing things that we normally do. And for me, going to the movies is one of them. And I know a lot of people are not going to be willing to pay $20 to see something when you could go see it for cheaper in a movie theater on a big screen with extra sound. And Fast and the Furious is not going to make as much money on video on demand. Halloween Kills is going to be really popular because people want to go see horror movies around Halloween. There's been a lot of anticipation for Candyman. So I understand the video on demand. I understand this VOD thing. But this simultaneously releasing in theaters and video on demand thing is bullshit. I only see exceptions with movies like Trolls and The Invisible Man because of the very highly specific circumstances that we're living under.
cinema's made Universal Studios what it is today, and they're showing zero respect for the medium, and to what got them to the level that they're at. They're showing zero respect, and they're not taking any responsibility for helping keep the theater chains alive, and I don't think it's right.
I don't either. I think if they try to push this route further, I think a lot of filmmakers are going to start rebelling, because a lot of filmmakers design their work to be seen on a big screen. I mean, they don't really work with Christopher Nolan, but can you imagine them trying to tell Christopher Nolan, we're going to be releasing your movie Tenet on video on the same day? Would not fly, and some filmmakers are not going to put up with it. So I think that they have another thing coming. And they're foolish if they think that they're going to get by without Regal and AMC, and they're just going to release $20 films for everybody to rent on video on demand. It's not going to work.
I think it's a cheap move. I think they should do a 180 on this to save what little integrity they have left.
Yeah. And this is not a slap on Universal as a studio for producing content, because if you're into horror, you got to respect Universal Studios for taking the genre so seriously, for funding it so well, for trying to make Universal, I will give them credit, they really try to make a big thing out of the horror genre, and they give it a lot of respect. So on that end, I understand, but these latest business announcements ring hollow to me. I have a feeling this is going to resolve itself in favor of AMC and Regal, because they're not going to want to just release. They still want to release movies in theaters, like they said. They're not going to be releasing movies in theaters if they don't have the biggest two chains on their back. They're not going to be able to just they're not going to make nearly as much money if they just do video on demand and only release it into small movie theaters.
Yeah, because they got AMC's got like 1,000 locations across the U.S. So when it was just AMC versus Universal, it looked dismal. But then when Regal Cinemas joined in, now Universal has to listen, and I hope they do. I'm getting bummed out about this, but I feel really good about the interview we have coming up.
Yeah, so next up on our podcast, we have our interview with David Howard Thornton, Art the Clown from Terrifier and the upcoming Terrifier 2. Just to let the audience know, we had some technical difficulties with this interview, so it cut in and out on a few spots, so we had to start it over. So if it seems like it's spotty for 1 second and it starts over, that's just because we had to get back onto the podcast. The connection wasn't doing great at some points, but we did manage to get a good interview despite all of the technical difficulties. And like I said, I want to thank David Howard Thornton again for being so gracious to us and giving us his time and having the patience to put up with all the technical difficulties that we endured during this interview. Well, hope you enjoy.
Horror show exclusive.
All right, today on the podcast we have David Howard Thornton. You know him best as Art the Clown from the modern classic Terrifier. How are you doing today, David?
I'm good, just struggling with technology.
So before we get started, how are you handling your quarantine situation right now?
As best as I can. I'm here in New York City, so I've been hunkered down for about 6 weeks now. So I'm doing as well as I can. Just playing a lot of video games, watching a lot of movies and TV shows. Yeah, it's like you gotta do what you gotta do. It's like, I go out and do grocery shopping and laundry, and that's it. I come back and hibernate.
I found out that we have something in common. You were born in Huntsville, Alabama. That's about 100 miles east of where I grew up in Mississippi.
Really? Wow. Where are you from?
Like Golden, Mississippi, like north of Tupelo.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, we used to drive through there when I was a kid growing up, because we would, coming back from a family reunion, we would always go through Tupelo to get some honey and stuff like that.
Okay. So
yeah.
What was it like growing up in the South, and how did you end up from the South in New York?
Growing up in the South is fine, I guess you could say. Yeah, I mean it was definitely a difference from growing up there in the woods and stuff like that than coming up here in the city where it's just concrete everywhere. So, but I made that transition pretty well. But yeah, I decided to leave Huntsville because I wanted to pursue acting full time. As much as I love doing community theater, nothing paid there, so I couldn't make a real career out of it. So I had to go where the money was.
Oh, so you actually started theater while you were in the South?
Yes, yeah. I grew up doing, well, first of all, I did like church theater way back in the day, which is ironic considering what I do now for a living. But but yeah, I did a lot of, I cut my teeth on community theater, doing a lot of children's theater actually, and just kind of snowballed from there. I ended up really enjoying doing what I was doing. I was like, I want to do this more.
How old were you when you realized that you wanted to be an actor?
Boy, I think I was probably about, do the math in my head, I think about 13 years old at the time. Yeah, when I was in like 8th grade, it's something kind of clicked with me because I was bullied growing up, and I ended up doing a production of Mickey's Christmas Carol because my mom thought that would help me get out of my shell and stuff like that. And it's when things went wrong on stage, I started improvising on the spot and had the audience just laughing their butts off. And I was like, oh, I like this power. I like this, how this feels. Like, for once, they're not laughing at me, they're laughing with me. And I'm like, this is wonderful. I like this. I like this. And I think that's when just everything clicked in my head of like, this is what I really need to be doing with my life.
So you've done stage, film, and voiceover. So is there any particular reason you chose Terrifier as being your first horror project?
It was just, it looked like the perfect type of role for me because I've always loved doing a lot of physical comedy. That's what I always did. And I love playing villains. And I had always wanted to play a silent Mr. Bean type character, that mischievous type of, clown, silent clown, and art was perfect for that. And I was like, I got to do this. I got to submit. This is perfect for me. It's like, what a great way to get into film work.
Yeah,
I had a chance to watch some of your work. You've done a lot of monologues as the Joker. I've seen you did the Killing Joke monologue, and you did a monologue from the Man Who Killed Batman, an episode of Batman the Animated Series.
Yes,
that's kind of like your first psychotic clown. Is the Joker, and you actually played the Joker on Nightwing Escalation, the YouTube series. Is the Joker like a dream role for you?
Oh God, yes. He's my favorite villain of all time, and it's like, and we look so much alike too. So I'm like, this is perfect. Yes, I would love to play him. Especially in a TV series, I would, because that way I could really spend time really fleshing out a character over it, not just a 2-hour movie, but a whole season or two at least. I think that would be just fantastic because there's so much to that character that I would like to explore.
Okay.
Well, what was your favorite portrayal of the Joker?
Oh, Mark Hamill by far.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think Mark totally understands the character. He understands all the nuances to him, and I'm like, I love his version of it.
And that's your main influence for when you do it, right?
Yeah. If you're gonna do it, you might as well learn from the best.
Yeah.
I have to give you a lot of props for that because I'm a diehard Batman fan and I grew up on the animated series. Mm-hmm. All the performances I've seen with you playing the Joker, it's like the Mark Hamill cartoon popped into the real world. It's the closest I've ever seen to anybody trying to get the animated Mark Hamill version down.
Well, thank you. It's just that's what I've always wanted to do because I think Mark nailed the character as he is written in the comics, especially when he did the Arkham games, because he was able to go darker with it. And that's what I've always wanted to see, is I wanted to see that really dark version of Joker brought to life like that. So I would love to have the opportunity to do that one day.
Where do you think Joaquin Phoenix's Joker fits in?
Well, I loved what he did as an actor in the movie, but with that said, I thought he was fantastic. But that is not the Joker of the comic books by any means. It's the Joker of the comic book is in control of the chaos. Mm-hmm. He always is 5 steps ahead of everybody else. He has a plan for everything. The Joker that you saw in Joker was not like that at all. He was just, whatever happens type of guy. And I'm like, no, that is not the Joker.
Did you like Heath Ledger's take then?
Yeah, I liked it because, he was he was a master strategist in a lot of ways. And Joker's very smart. He doesn't have the physicality to go up against Batman with, so he has to use his intellect.
How did you land the role on Nightwing Escalation? Was it audition tapes, or had they seen you before?
I found out about it when I was doing a voiceover workshop class. With one of the guys I was in the class with, he had just auditioned for the series, and he's like, "Hey, he went in for Joker, even though he just wanted to do it just for fun. But he's like, I don't physically fit the role, but I think you would be perfect for this. So you need to contact these guys." And so I did, and I sent them like one of my videos where I did one of my Killing Joke monologues, and they brought me in for an audition. And they're like, "Oh, you're perfect. Yes. Please, 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 please." Because apparently they had been struggling for a while trying to find someone that could play the character, because they're all diehard Batman fans themselves. So they were very, very particular about what they wanted with them.
But tell us about getting the small role on Gotham. It was a small role, but you still got to create a villain.
Oh, that was fun. I love doing that. That's a role I got too because of my improv skills. Because I feel that's how I got it, because I was in the middle of my audition. I ended up getting choked on my own spit for this just randomly happened, and instead of just stopping with the scene and gathering my wits, I just kept going with it and integrated that into what was going on, and I had the casting director just cackling.
Nice.
And then she's like, "Oh, you want to do it again?" I'm like, "Yeah, okay, sure, if you think." But I think that's what helped me stand out among everybody else that was auditioning for the role. Is I went that extra mile with the character, and they could tell right there that I had already fully developed the character in my head. And that's what I loved about playing. That is, even though it's like a small role on the series, I already had a whole backstory for him and everything, and it was a lot of fun. It's like if I didn't get to play a main villain on that show like I wanted to, at least I got to help create one of them. So that was kind of cool.
One of the interesting things about the Joker, and then your most famous portrayal, Art the Clown, is the Joker is talkative. He likes to blab.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't shut up. He has a ton. He goes off on speechifying all the time. Art the Clown is silent.
Yep.
Is that how is it acting without your voice? Is that more challenging, or do you prefer it?
A little bit of both. It is definitely a challenge, but to me it's a fun challenge, because I've always wanted to play a character like that. I grew up watching the old silent clowns of yesterday, like Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin, Harpo Marx, Emmett Kelly, even, or the more recent one I would say would be Rowan Atkinson's Mr. Bean. And I always wanted to play a character like that, because I like that idea of conveying meaning and intent, and having a whole entire scene done just with physicality and facial expressions. There's something unique about them, very special.
So tell us about the audition process for Art the Clown. I hear that you got the part right away, and you went right into a makeup test. So tell us what it was like in the audition, and what did you do to get that part? Because I'm wondering how Damien Leone knew that a guy that was mostly known for doing the Joker and doing both voiceover work, and you were known for being animated, how did he know that you were going to play such a great mute killer clown?
Well, I just saw the casting notice for it, and they were looking for a guy that was tall, skinny, and had physical comedy experience or clowning experience. So I'm like, oh, this is perfect for me. So I had my reps submit me for it. I was like, guys, I can totally knock this one out of the park. It's perfect. So I got in the room, and I walk in the room, and everybody has scripts, and I never got a script. And I'm like, oh, God, no, that's like every nightmare, every actor's nightmare right there. And I'm like, oh God, here I am for my first big, huge film role that I'm going in for, and I don't have, I'm like, oh God, and so I'm stressing out, and I get in the room, and I'm like, I am so sorry, but I fear that I am not prepared, because I never got a script. I'm like, oh, you don't need one. Art never talks. I'm like, oh, cool. Okay, so, what do you want me to do then? They're like, well, just come up with a scene where you decapitate a guy. And go. And I'm like, whoa, can I take a few minutes just to think of something? Like, no, we want to see what you can do on your feet. I'm like, okay. And so right then I just launched into this whole routine where I like cartoonishly snuck up behind my victim, knocked him out, took out a hacksaw, sawed off his head, picked it up, like tasted the blood, didn't like the taste of it, so I took out a salt shaker and seasoned it, and then tasted again, liked it, kind of bathed a little bit, and I was like, oh, this is nice, and just then skipped out on my merry way. And that's what got me the role.
Is it true that you had miming experience before auditioning for Art the Clown?
No, I've never actually done any professional miming or anything like that. I just have a lot of physical comedy experience because I did a lot of children's theater, and children are more, in tune with the physicality than the verbal type of humor. So that's where I really cut my teeth. But when I toured with How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the musical, I understudied Stephen Carl, who is known for playing Robbie Rotten on the show Lazy Town. And Stephen is was a master at physical comedy. He actually trained in that professionally. So he was able to help fine-tune all my skills. So if anything, I learned from Stephen.
Okay.
So how much did you have worked out of what you were going to do with the character before the audition, or did most of what you did with it come after?
A lot of that just came out on set. I mean, I did a little bit of preliminary, character work. Of course, I rewatched All Hallows Eve just so I could get the basic nuances that Mike Gianelli, the original Art the Clown, brought to the character. So I had that solid foundation to start with, and then I just integrated more of what I like to do into it, and more the physical nature, because Mike didn't have the background in physical comedy that I did, and that's what I want to bring more to it. Yeah, but a lot of that, I would just figure things out on set. Damien would just let me play around with things and come up with my own little routines and whatnot. Or sometimes he knew exactly what he wanted me to do too. So we had that fun balance with each other. So it's a nice relationship to have that, with a director like that, because I've had both types of directors where they're like, either they don't know at all what they're doing and I've had to figure everything out myself, or they micro direct me to the smallest thing, like when to blink my eyes. So it's like with Damien, I get a little bit of both, and it's nice. It's a nice balance.
On set for Terrifier, did you stay in character between takes, or do you drop it in between?
Oh, I totally just dropped it in between takes. I'm not one of those actors that has to do the whole method thing. And I think my co-stars would be very happy because of that.
Were any of your co-stars afraid of you on set? Because I have little cousins who are absolutely terrified of Art the Clown, and I'm sure up in person it's probably even scarier. Did you scare any co-stars?
I might have. I have been known to play a few little pranks here or there. So especially with our new female lead, I've liked to sometimes just creep up behind her and stand behind her very quietly while she's talking to someone. So when she turns around, I'm right in her face and scare her. But other than that, it just I think people get so used to me. I think I scare them more when I'm out of makeup because they're not used to seeing me that way.
So Damien Leone does all the makeup effects. So how does that work out on set?
Yes.
If he's having to do makeup for hours on end, how does that work? How does he work in the directing with the makeup?
I don't know how he keeps his sanity. I usually just we have to get there an hour or so before everybody else does. So while the crew's setting up the lighting and everything like that, Damien's working hard on getting my makeup done. Sometimes he has to leave me and go check out the set and everything like that, or go film a scene, then come back and finish me up. But I'm like, it's a balancing act. But he has someone else. He has an assistant there, Jackie, that has helped with the other members of the cast, get them in makeup. But Damien is very particular about my makeup. He wants to do it himself.
Oh, okay.
Did you expect Art the Clown to become such a beloved horror icon so immediately?
Oh gosh, no, not at all. that was one of those things that just came out of nowhere for us. Because I mean, we we had hoped that he would be that way, but we were trying to be realistic with ourselves because we knew what we were and that we were a very, very, very low budget independent film. And we didn't have studios behind us. We didn't have big publicity agencies to hype us up and all that kind of stuff. So we didn't expect that at all. It's a true testament to like fan power, how the fans go out there and spread the love and everything like that. So we're very grateful for them.
Well, you said that when you first started filming that you were really afraid of hurting people, and then the actresses would tell you to just go for it. So
yeah,
how much is them having that attitude? How much does that add to the greatness of Art the Clown?
Oh, it definitely adds more, because then I'm like, oh, you're talking about their attitude being like, do whatever. Yeah. So like, oh, okay, cool. I can actually go a little bit harder, I guess, with what I have to do, because that was my main concern. It's like, I don't actually want to physically harm anybody while doing this. I'm a big teddy bear when it comes to that kind of stuff. But yeah, it definitely gave me a little bit more freedom. Like a great example of that was with the Samantha, when I'm grabbing her hair and pulling her back when she's trying to escape through the door. I really did that with her hair, and I was like, "Oh man!" She's like, "No, it's good. It gives me something to work with." I'm like, "Okay." So it's going into part 2, that's really helped me too, because I'm like, okay, now I still check in with them, but it's like I've actually had to wail on people with some weapons. So I've gotten paid back for it too. So I know what they go through now.
So you guys started an Indiegogo crowdfunding campaign for Terrifier 2. Did you think it was gonna be as successful as it ended up being? Because that hit its mark pretty fast and went beyond. Am I correct?
Yeah, we did not expect that at all. I remember when we were even trying to set our goal, I had originally suggested that we make it about $100,000, and Damien's like, "Oh gosh, no, I doubt we'll even be able to make that." It's like, let's try to be realistic and set it for like 50,000. And I'm like, okay. It's like, hey, even Damien is like, I don't even know if we'll be able to make 50,000. And we hit that 50,000 in less than 3 hours.
So can you tell us anything about what that extra money added to production?
Oh, a lot. It's because we've discovered as we're filming that, oh boy, this is more expensive than we thought it was going to be. So it's definitely helped us a lot. Making that $200,000 it's definitely helped, because we have one big huge set piece that we recently filmed that money went into. It paid for the stunt actors to come in, and it paid for the big huge set that we had to build, and it's helped out tremendously.
So
Absolutely.
Is that the scene where Damien Leone teased and said that think of what if Art the Clown was involved in the Carrie prom scene?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh yes. Oh, I can't wait for y'all to see this scene.
In the original Terrifier, the most infamous scene is where you hang a girl upside down and saw her all the way down the middle, and that was like a really big showstopper in that movie that got a lot of people's attention.
Yeah.
Since you're going to be doing, you guys have upped the ante with the big slaughter. Did you feel like a pressure to try to live up to that and try to top it and take it to the next level?
Oh, definitely. I remember when Terrifier 1 came out and we saw how everybody reacted to that scene. We're like, oh god, now they're wanting a sequel. How are we going to top that? It's like, oh gosh, did we set the bar too high for us? But I think some of the scenes that we've come up with are definitely going to rival that. It's one of the kill scenes I do. It's done in a...
All right, sorry about that, folks. We're having technical difficulties. We're still getting used to this virtual podcast stuff, so I apologize about that.
I blame Bill Gates.
You blame Bill?
Yeah.
I blame Bill Gates.
I need to read about that because I have no idea what conspiracy theories are about, but I know that there's something about Bill Gates. Being
I don't know. I'm just being facetious.
I know, but I see that shit pop up all over my timeline now. So
I see so much of it. So I'm just like, yeah.
Before we got cut off, we were asking about the Indiegogo campaign.
Mhm.
You guys didn't expect it to take off so fast or to give that much money.
Right.
All right. As far as that goes, since you got a bigger budget, do you think making Terrifier 2 was more challenging because of a wider scope or easier because of a bigger budget?
Ooh, I would say it's been a little bit more challenging because of the wider scope, because we've actually probably gone over budget already.
Okay.
So, because we didn't expect certain things to cost as much as they have. And we've actually had to take longer time to film certain scenes because there was a lot more involved in the scene than we thought was going to be involved. So it took a little bit longer to film some things. So it's like this one bit that we're doing, like the big climax of the film, we ended up having to take an extra week just to film it because there's so much going on in it.
A little bit more budget. A little bit more budget leaves room for stuff like that, you know.
Yeah,
so you don't have to cut as many corners.
That's very true. That's very true. Because I always think it's a miracle what we did in the first film on the budget we had. Anyways, it's like what we pulled off with what we had is what.
So, how much were you involved in the beginning stages of Part 1? And are you involved more in Part 2, or is it about the same?
Part 1, I only came into it after they had already, I came in during casting, so I had nothing to do with like the lead up to it all. Part 2, though, I was there from the get-go with Damien, like coming up with ideas for the script and all that kind of stuff. He and I would bounce ideas off each other all the time, and then he would write them down, and so it was fun having that kind of input on what was going on. So that was fun, and so I've seen all of this come to fruition, which is really cool to see. But it's really opened my eyes on how movies are actually made and what goes into the process of making a movie from a production standpoint. I'm glad I'm not the one in charge of all that. It just stresses me out thinking about all the stuff they have to deal with. I'm like, I'm glad I'm just the actor.
Yeah.
So what's the progress with Terrifier 2? Is it in post-production right now? Or do you still have
Sort of, kind of. Well, we still have some scenes to film. I think I had maybe 4 or 5 more days left on set. So we're almost finished. That's what was so annoying about having to go into this quarantine, because we're so close to being finished. But it is in post-production in a way, because Damien has not let this time go to waste. He's been busy sitting there and editing everything that we've already filmed already, which is a big chunk of the film. So by the time we're able to film the rest of the film, he can easily just plug that right back in and hopefully get this out to distribution and stuff like that.
Okay.
Well, some fans, as you know, complained that there wasn't enough story in the first one, which I think is silly. I mean, Art the Clown doesn't need a story. So I know you guys are adding more of a story into this one. Are you concerned that that'll take away from some of the mystery, or can you talk to us about what you did to avoid that?
Yeah, I mean, first I'll address the whole plot thing. It's like, we knew it didn't have much of a plot because it was all happening in real time. So we wanted the audience to be basically in the shoes of the victims, not knowing what was going on either. And if you look at a lot of the old slasher films, the first films especially, didn't have much plots either. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, there's no real plot to that at all. It's just mayhem. It's just like these kids happen upon this family out in the middle of nowhere in Texas, and they all die.
Yeah.
You don't know why this is happening. It's just that, and that's basically what we're going for. But in Part 2, like you see in all those other films, like once they started really making more films, they started building on the universe. They started building on the character, building up the backstory, bringing characters, building up those characters. It's a lot of universe building, and that's what we're doing in part 2. So we've introduced art to the world. Now it takes place a year later, so you're seeing how he has impacted that world, people in it. And so now we're bringing more people into it. We're bringing this solid protagonist in. I absolutely love the character of Sienna. I think she's going to give Laurie Strode a run for her money as a final girl. So
Lauren Rivera, right?
Yes, yeah, she's fantastic. It's just I've had moments on set where I'm just like I get lost in her performance. Like, gosh, she is so good. I even went in for a few days when I wasn't even filming just to watch, her and the other actors work.
Really quick, your sound went out.
This technology is a blessing and a curse.
Let's see.
I'm sorry. The last 30 seconds cut off. You were talking about your cast. I'm so fucking sorry for all of this.
Oh yeah. It's like that's it's Zoom. It's not your fault. It's Zoom. It's this stupid platform. Yeah, but yeah, it's like our cast is just fantastic. I just love their performances. They're helping me up my game as well, and I'm totally enamored with everybody, and because of that, we're really able to build a really good plot into this film. So we're really building up her character now. So we're introducing the Batman to Art's Joker, I guess you could say, in a lot of ways, which is going to be really cool to see how that plays out. But we are definitely keeping things still a mystery in a lot of ways with Art. We have some clues here or there if you know where to look. So, but we don't want to just totally shoot our load all at once and reveal everything about Art. I think having a little bit of mystery behind the character makes it more intriguing anyways.
Do you guys have planned out to slowly reveal more of the backstory with the inevitable sequel?
Oh yeah. We definitely want to do something like that in part 3. Because we can't keep everybody hanging forever. But we have an interesting way that we're going to approach it that reveals enough about him, but doesn't reveal everything about him. So you still have that mystique behind him. It's just kind of like I kind of think of how Joker's origin is in the comics. You understand how he becomes Joker, but you don't know who he was before he was Joker. Okay. So you still have that mystery there.
Are you going to explore more of the supernatural elements of Art?
Yeah, but I mean, we're not going to go crazy with it. Yeah. We're not going to have him like flying around or teleporting or anything like that. But I mean, he's definitely he's definitely hard to kill, I guess you could say. I can reveal that, but you already see that in part 1 too. That he can be stabbed in the back, he can be knocked around with a plank of wood, stabbed in the feet, and then it hurts him for a second, then he shrugs it off and gets back to killing.
Yeah,
so that's already established.
I have a question. Felissa Rose is in this film, and she's a cult horror icon for playing Angela in the Sleepaway Camp films. Did she have to audition for that, or did Damien want her from the get-go?
Oh, Damien wanted her from the get-go. It was just like, she's got a fun little cameo in here. So she's not a huge character, unfortunately, but it's what she does is really fun.
Cool.
Another person that was caught on set is Millie Shapiro, and she played the little girl Charlie in Hereditary. So there is pictures of her on set. Is she involved in this somehow, or did she just come to visit the set as a fan?
Oh, she just came to visit the set as a fan because she's good friends with our Fuss and the Lens guys that are helping us on the film, like Mike Levy and Jason and Steve and all of them. So she just wanted to come visit set one day, so she hung out with us. So that was fun.
Could you tell us about your confrontation with the New Jersey police in Art the Clown costume?
Oh, wow.
Oh, that was fun. Yeah, it was. I always forget how I look when I'm wearing the makeup because I get so used to wearing it. And so there's this night in Trent, New Jersey, where it's about 2:00 in the morning. They're filming the scene where Jenna's getting shot in the face, so they're doing all the practical effects. So they didn't need me in there. So I'm just waiting to go on, and there's this argument that's happening on the street outside of our window. And it's these two ladies, and they're having an argument, and I'm like, well, I'm going to watch this argument. I'm bored, so might as well watch an episode of Springer while I'm at it. So, so I'm just watching casually, and like one of them looks up and sees me in the window, and I'm just like, hi.
You waved?
Yeah. Forgetting how I looked, I had blood all over me and all that, and it's like, hi. And she just, like, eyes bug out. She screams. The other woman turns around, sees me too, screams. They go running off. And I'm like, oh, God. I was like, and I thought nothing of it. Then, like, about 15 minutes later, Damien and our producers and all them come in. They're giggling like schoolgirls. I'm like, what's going on, guys? Like, oh, we got someone here that wants to meet you. I'm like, oh, cool. Because at the time, our producer, Phil, was working on a production with Tom Sizemore, and he had been saying that Tom was possibly going to visit us on set. He never did, but I thought at this time, it's like, oh, maybe Tom's here to visit, finally. So, cool. I was excited. They're like, well, Dave, don't come out until we tell you to because we want it to be a surprise. I'm like, okay. I thought I was surprising someone else. So there's like this big roll-up garage door, and so I roll it up when they tell me to, and I come out, and my butt just puckers. Because I come up and there's like 10 to 15 like New Jersey's finest and full-on riot gear, like, you know, assault rifles, riot shields, grenade launchers, all that kind of stuff. I'm like, oh God, I'm gonna die. And I'm like, in my brain, because I'm one of these people, like, I always try to diffuse a situation, so I'm like, okay, how can I like make this like fun? And so they know I'm not a threat, so I'm like, what's up, guys? And I'm just met with silence. I'm like, oh, God. I'm going to die. I'm dying. So I'm going out. And all of a sudden they just start laughing. And I'm like, oh, thank God. They're like, yeah, be glad you were not the first one to come out because we would have shot you on sight. And I'm like, oh, I believe
God,
you.
that's scary.
Because the building we were in had no running water, so we had a porta potty outside. And so I was thinking, oh my God, if I had been out in that porta potty when they had arrived, that would have been it. I would have come out of there. I'm like, oh. But yeah,
That's
it was. They thought it was hysterical. Like, one of the cops had a excuse me. One of the cops had like this huge fear of clowns, and so he would not come anywhere near me. And I'm like, they're all making fun of him because he was so afraid of me. I'm like, dude, you've got the rocket launcher on you. You're fine. You're gonna be fine. Yeah, nah, it's okay. Like, even one of them was like, hey, I don't know if you guys need it, but we got a body down at the station right now you guys can use. And we're like, yeah. Okay, man, we still don't know if he was joking or being serious, but that was a crazy night. And we had a similar experience on part 2 as well one night, where I can't say what the scene was, but I had to walk inside from outside, so I had to cross the street, and I'm covered in blood. And all of a sudden we'd already filmed that bit, but we're sitting inside, and all of a sudden a cop car pulls up outside. We're like, oh no, not again. And they come in and they're like, so got a report about a clown covered in blood. And I'm like, that's me. And the cop just looks at me, and she's like, oh, yep, I totally see. I see why we got the call. Yep. Okay. They're like, yeah, we're filming a movie. They're like, okay, yeah. I would have called this in too. It's like, well, carry on. We're like, okay, thank you. But Damien, when the cop showed up, he's like, Dave, why don't we mess around with them? Like, no. No, I'm not going to mess around.
Do you have any other fun on-set stories from either the first Terrifier or the upcoming one? Anything particularly memorable?
I would say that the cocksock story is memorable because that was like, wow, I felt really stupid. And it's the reason we have a little bit of CG in the film too. It's because it's Buffalo Bill scene. Damien contacts me and he's like, "Hey Dave, you got a cock sock?" And I'm like, "A what?" He's like, "Yeah, just bring something to cover up your junk." I'm like, "Oh, okay, I'll bring a sock." I didn't think. So I show up because I had to wear a most people don't notice it, but I'm also not just wearing fake boobs and the scalp. I'm also wearing my victim's vajayjay.
I wasn't even aware of that.
Yeah, they had to glue it on me down there. That was not fun. That was a very interesting night. But I had my cock sock underneath, and I brought a bright white tube sock. And I didn't think about that. And it's like, oh, so you just see with this bright white down there. Damien's constantly like, "Dave, you got to cover that up more." I'm like, "I'm sorry. I'm. This is what I've got. I can't help that I'm gifted in certain ways." It's like it's just so bright. It's like you should have brought a black one. I'm like, "You're a racist." But I know what you mean. But I'm just kidding with you. So yeah, so he had to use CG to like basically edit out the bright white that you saw coming from my crotch.
Not even noticeable though.
Oh yeah, no, it's not. It's not. Thankfully, because I would have been just like everybody would just been staring right there, going, "Oh!" Hey, I'm back.
There we go.
All right, perfect.
This is annoying.
I know. I wanted to know a little bit about your horror influences. I mean, you said your favorite horror films are Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Halloween. Do you mostly just gravitate towards slashers, or do you like other subgenres as well?
Oh, I like others too. I enjoy some like the more paranormal stuff, like the Paranormal Activity movies I had. I thought those were fun. I'm like Trick or Treat. I think is a fantastic film. Love that. That was a lot of fun. Oh gosh, there's been some, but I'd say probably slashers are my favorite. They're just fun.
So you've always been a horror fan, even way before art, even though you weren't in horror.
I was a little bit late to the game. I really didn't get into them until my senior year of high school because my mom was a big chicken when it came to horror films, so we never watched horror films in my family. But it's when Scream 2 came out, and I didn't want to look at like a chicken when my cast went out because there was this girl I had a crush on in my cast, and they all went to go see Scream 2, and they're like, "Okay, Dave, you got to come out." I'm like, "Okay, fine." And I was like, "I love this. This is so much fun. I don't know what my mom's talking about."
Scream 2 was your first horror movie.
Yeah, that was my first one.
Well,
my first one that I really sat through all the way. There have been ones that I had seen as a little kid. Like I remember walking in and seeing my parents watching Poltergeist as a kid, and that freaked me out. But but that was my first true one that I sat through.
I know they're off right now, but have you participated in any of the horror conventions?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I've done a lot of those. Those are a lot of fun. That's what I hate about this quarantine right now. I was supposed to do 2 in March, and I was supposed to be doing 2 this month, and they're all postponed till later on this year. But I absolutely love going to them.
You do photo ops in full costume, right?
Yeah, I usually do a little in costume photo ops. It's when they bring Damien out, they will do a full costume and makeup photo op.
The horror community is such a kind of like a very passionate, tight-knit community. Were you surprised by the outpouring or the amount of love that you get at these horror conventions, or seeing the faces of some of the fans?
Oh, definitely so. Because I especially like my first few of those, I felt like a fraud, because I'm like, okay, I'm sitting right next to Jason Voorhees and Mike Myers and Leatherface and these icons, and here I am. I'm like, I don't feel like I deserve to be in the ranks. Like these are the greats, but it's like seeing how like the fan community has responded to the character has been really awesome, and seeing how even those greats that I talk about, the actors that played those characters, how I was so afraid of like they would be looking at me as like, oh, who's this guy? But they fully embraced art into the pantheon of killers. They're like, yeah, you're one of us now, which is really cool.
Yeah, and you have a friendly rivalry going with Billy Pond. He's the director of Circus of the Dead. So who's a scarier clown, Papa Corn or Art?
That's a hard question to answer, actually, because they're alike in so many ways, but different in so many ways. So it's like they have their own way of going about things. Like, you know, like Papa Corn is more about just psychologically breaking a person. And, you know, Art's that way too, but he's also about just absolutely mutilating a person too. So it just depends what scares you more.
And they're both a little perverted.
Oh, yeah.
But Papa Corn more so.
Oh, definitely so. I was like, yeah, yeah, definitely so. It's a fun rivalry, though. It's just like, you know, it's like we Billy and I have a lot of fun with each other.
Do you foresee a collaboration in the future? Maybe a crossover film, Art the Clown versus Papa Corn, a sort of Freddy versus Jason thing.
Who knows? Who knows? Like, crazier things have been known to happen.
So you're on a Cameo, correct? That's where you record messages for people can buy messages as a gift for their loved ones or something. Do you ever do that in costume?
I do Cameo videos, yes.
You ever do them as Art the Clown or just that's yourself?
I usually do a little bit of both, but I don't do it in full makeup because that takes like 3 hours to do. But I like to throw on my like Trick or Treat studio mask and then like rip it off after I've done a little bit of art stuff, and then like, hi.
Yeah. I saw that one.
So, yeah, I try to do what I can. I think I did one day for someone for their birthday because I got the notice. I don't know what happened there. It just like dropped out for some reason.
It's just a minor freeze.
So yeah. I do the Cameo videos where I like to do the little, sometimes put the mask on, take it off type thing too. So it's whatever. It is like I did one time where I was actually in full makeup and costume because I got the notice while I was on set, and I was like, might as well do this because it was for someone's birthday, someone I knew. So I was like, I'm gonna have fun doing this one.
Oh, cool. I saw that one video that you did. Is you had the Art the Clown mask on, and you were dancing around to that song "Don't Touch Me."
Yes.
Was that for Cameo? That was hilarious. I can't stop
that
watching.
Was just for me. I was just bored one day, and I just wanted to put that on Instagram.
I've been showing that to everybody. Art the Clown put on an Art the Clown mask, and he's dancing around to this hilarious song. You have to see it.
Yeah, thank you. It's just because I thought it was funny. It's like, why not? I occasionally come up with little ideas like that. I'm like, might as well have some fun.
You said earlier that you have like 4 or 5 days left of shooting Terrifier 2. You're going to have to wait until after quarantine. Do you guys have a target release date? Or are you trying for late 2020 or 2021 or any?
Yeah, we've been hoping to do a late 2020 release, like fall. So we're hoping, but right now so many things are up in the air because of all this with the virus and stuff like that. Because we still got to finish and we got to talk to distribution. So my hope is to get it then, but like we'll see what happens. I can't make any promises, unfortunately. But I mean, that's basically the whole movie industry right now in general. It seems like everybody's having to postpone things that are supposed to come out this year until next year now. So it's just like, what you gonna do?
Yeah.
At least, it's like we're not having the issue that, Halloween and Candyman are having right now with Regal and AMC. So that's...
Yeah, I just heard about that this morning. That's terrible.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
I would think that's going to resolve itself because Universal is going to need AMC and Regal theaters if they want to make back, because those are big budget movies, and I don't think AMC or Regal is going to want to do without all the Universal films that they have planned.
Yeah.
So at some point it has to solve it. So they have to resolve it.
Oh yeah. Money talks. It'll get there.
Do you have any advice for up-and-coming actors on how they can reach the success that you have?
Whew. First of all, a lot of perseverance. It took me 13 years just auditioning all the time and just taking small roles and just building up my resume for years to get where I am. So you got to be persistent. If this is something you enjoy doing, keep going at it. Don't get disheartened. I know a lot of people that get disgruntled and all that when they don't get cast several times, but that happens there, especially when you live in somewhere like New York or LA where there's so many talented people. It's just like there's a lot to choose from. It really sometimes doesn't even come down to talent. It comes down to things you have no control over. So don't take it personally. Just keep doing what you're doing and keep at it. I'd also suggest just be a consummate learner. I'm always watching people. I like to mimic people. I watch when I'm watching movies on Netflix or going to theaters or playing video games. I'm sitting there and taking mental notes about things I'm watching and thinking of ways I can adapt that for myself. And or even just going out in the park and sitting on a bench, I watch people and I'm like, that's an interesting person. I want to see if I can figure out anything I can take from this person and add it to a character I can create one day or something like that. So that's one thing I suggest too, is never stop learning from others.
I know it's a little bit early, but do you guys have any plans for a Terrifier 3?
Oh yes, definitely. That's Damien's always had a trilogy at least in mind, so we know where we want to end everything with the character so far. So we have a pretty cool ending for him for part 3, which is if it's only going to be 3 movies, then this is a great way to send the character out. But it'll also kind of open things up to if they ever want to bring him back for anything else too. So it's very creative ending. I wish I could say more, but I've never seen anything like this done with a character before. So I'm excited about filming it.
Are you going to feel... So the first time we mentioned earlier, the first one you had the scene where the girl was upside down and she was hacked in half. In this one, you upped it by doing, I guess, Art the Clown's equivalent to the Carrie slaughter. How do you think you're going to top all of that in part 3? Are you going to think you're going to need a bigger budget?
Yeah. Oh, definitely, because we already have some big ideas for part 3. So yeah, we'll definitely have to have a bigger budget.
Did you and Damien Leone, do you collaborate? Or do you have an input as far as the origins of Art the Clown or where he's headed, or do you guys work together? Okay.
Yeah, we've worked on that together. That's like one of the things. Like my first day on set for Terrifier. That's what I asked him. It's like, who is this guy and what is his deal? Like, what is his backstory? He's like, Dave, I've never really thought of that. I'm like, really? I was like, yeah, I just thought he looked cool and was creepy, but like, let's build on it. I'm like, okay, let's do that. So we've fleshed out his whole backstory now between the two of us. So there are at least 2 of us that know what he's about.
Have any other horror filmmakers approached you about possibly forming another horror icon, a horror villain? Yes.
I'm supposed to be doing another film. Hopefully, I'm going to be filming later on this year called Stream with some of the guys that have actually been helping us on Terrify, our Fuzz and Lens guys. Like the exterminator that I decapitate, Mike Levy. He and his brother and their friend Steve have their own studio. They played the cops also in the film. But they're doing a film that they're hoping is going to be another trilogy at least called Stream that we're filming later on this year. That's a really cool idea. And then I've had some other people approaching me too. Nothing really huge out of Hollywood yet, but hey, like I'm always happy to work wherever I can. So you never know what can. I think we need some new blood in there anyways right now. So I'm always happy to see what I can help create with other people as well.
Yeah, I'd like to see what you do with a horror villain that speaks.
Yeah, me too.
Use your vocal talent.
Yeah, that would be fun. That would be fun. So I kind of do like not having to memorize lines for once.
Yeah.
It's like I could just go in and be like, okay, what am I doing today? And just come up with things. So that's what's fun for me sometimes. I sometimes just walk on the set and I'm like, okay, what's going on in this scene today? And I'll look at what I have to work with, and I just come up with a routine on the spot.
You said you're a fan of Halloween, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and The Nightmare on Elm Street 3. Mm-hmm. Do you have a favorite horror film?
I don't have a absolute favorite, unfortunately. I would say my top 5, though, would be Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, Dream Warriors, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original one, the original Halloween, The Omen, and Exorcist.
Oh, all excellent choices.
Yeah. But there's so many other great ones. Right now I'm going through and watching all the Friday the 13th movies on Amazon Prime right now, which I'm having fun. It's been about 20 years since I've watched them, so it's fun going back and watching them again.
What is it about Nightmare on Elm Street 3 that you liked better than the original?
It just seemed like that one really figured out where they finally figured out where they were going with it, and also revealed a lot more about Freddy as a character as well. It felt like that's where everything clicked. Plus the whole thing with Nancy too. That was a surprise too. I was like, oh boy, I was like, did not see that coming. It was just a fun film. It was fun.
It's definitely on the more humorous side of the Nightmare on Elm Street films.
But it still had the viciousness to it, too. That was essential.
Exactly.
One last question. Is art ever going to speak in any film at any point in time?
No.
No?
No. Good.
Probably.
No.
We wanted to thank you so much for your time, David. We really are really big fans of your work. We love Terrifier. We're really looking forward to Terrifier 2. Hopefully you guys could wrap that as soon as possible so we can get it, so you can get it out to the world. Thank you so much for coming on our show.
Yes.
Thanks, David.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here. Sorry for all the issues with the Zoom and all that, but hey, we made it through.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks
We're survivors.
again, yeah.
We're final guys. You're very welcome. Y'all take care. Have a good day.
Horror show exclusive.
All right. We hope you enjoyed that interview with David Howard Thornton. I hope to have him back on the podcast in the future again. He's a really, really fun guy, really informative, and the exact opposite of Art the Clown. Like he said, big teddy bear.
He's so talkative, and he's so talented with how animated he is, and with all his improv and stuff. And the fact that his most famous role ends up being a mute, it's crazy.
Well, folks, that's all we have for today's podcast. Until next week,
happy horror.